DynamoDB Secondary Indexes Comparison. Let's look at the main differences between a global secondary index, GSI, and a local secondary index, LSI. Key schema. The primary key of a global secondary index can be either simple, including just the partition key, or composite, including both the partition key and the sort key. For local secondary index, the primary key must be composite, which includes both the partition key and the sort key. Key attributes. The GSI partition key and sort key, if present, can be any base table attributes, of type string, number, or binary. For LSI, the partition key of the index is the same attribute as the partition key of the base table. The sort key can be any base table attribute, of type string, number, or binary. Size restrictions per partition key value. There are no size restrictions for global secondary indexes. However, in the case of local secondary index, for each partition key value, the total size of all indexed items must be 10 GB or less. Default limit per table. You can create up to 20 global secondary indexes per table. For local secondary indexes, you can create up to 5 per table. Online index operations. Global secondary indexes can be created at the same time that you create a table. You can also add a new global secondary index to an existing table, or delete an existing global secondary index. On the other hand, local secondary indexes are created at the same time that you create a table. You cannot add a local secondary index to an existing table, nor can you delete any existing local secondary indexes. Queries and partitions. A global secondary index lets you query over the entire table, across all partitions. A local secondary index only lets you query over a single partition, as specified by the partition key value in the query. Read consistency. Queries on global secondary index only support eventual consistency, while local secondary index support eventual consistency, or strong consistency. Provision throughput. Every global secondary index has its own provision throughput settings for read and write activity. Read capacity units RCUs, and write capacity units WCUs are provisioned separately for GSIs. Queries or scans on a global secondary index consume capacity units from the index, not from the base table. The same holds true for global secondary index updates due to table writes. On the other hand, queries or scans on a local secondary index consume read capacity units from the base table. When you write to a table, its local secondary indexes are also updated. These updates consume write capacity units from the base table. Projected attributes. With global secondary index queries or scans, you can only request the attributes that are projected into the index. DynamoDB does not fetch any attributes from the table. If you query or scan a local secondary index, you can request attributes that are not projected into the index. DynamoDB automatically fetches those attributes from the table.